So today we're going to talk about Game of Thrones filming locations. Now season 8 is about to drop in less than a month, so who's excited about that? I know I am.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, you got it. So today we're going to start off in probably the country that has the most Game of Thrones filming locations, which would be Ireland.
Yeah, Northern Ireland is the place where Game of Thrones has shot the most, for sure. First of all, they filmed the main set in the Titanic Studios, which is located in Belfast. So when you go to Belfast and you're checking out the Titanic Museum, which is downtown on the waterfront, the Game of Thrones studio is just down the street, just a few hundred meters from Titanic Museum. You'll get to see the Game of Thrones studios.
Well, we're finishing up the Titanic tour here. Got to play a little bit on our segways, and now we're off. See ya. One of the first places you have to go is definitely Castle Ward. It's not too far outside of Belfast, and it is the home of Winterfell.
You can book day tours from Belfast to Castle Ward, and you get to dress up as Jon Snow and Robb Stark and all the Starks with their fur coats, and that's the most fun thing. You get to check out swords, and you get to shoot a bow and arrow.
I'm about to learn how to shoot a bow properly, so let's see how good I do.
Just the stance, okay? Left hand out, bow hand up. So this is your bow arm. This is your arrow, which is going to go on like this on the tab there. Draw out to the corner of your smile, look down the arrow to the pointy end, and then aim and let go. So we get that, we'll work these in from there. Okay. Front end needs to come down, you can see that, just a little bit.
Not a bad grouping I got going on here.
I was distracted. I thought I saw a wildling.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, and then I realized I didn't, and it could have been a raven, and I just got all confused, and I just.
Well, in that case, you gotta go. I'm sorry. So we're gonna bring you around here to our beheading block.
This is
Debbie,
not fun.
do not look at me while I'm talking to you. You're a disgrace. Your skills in archery, Debbie, have been found wanting. I therefore see you as a liability in the Night's Watch, and certainly not fit to guard the Stark family.
Oh no.
I must banish you to the afterlife. Goodbye.
Bye.
There's a lot of other scenes there. There's the hanging tree that you can go see. There's the twins. Now this is funny because the twins, we know they're big CGI, and they point out on a hill over there and say, hey, the twins were filmed there. And then you look and go, I don't see it. But it is a place where they have filmed a lot of the different seasons and a lot of scenes around the Game of Thrones.
The next place to check out in Northern Ireland is Ballintoy Harbour, which was Pyke's harbour in the Game of Thrones.
This was when Theon Greyjoy went home to the Iron Islands. I say that 3 times. The Iron Islands, and this was the port. And it's really cool because there's a picture of Theon with the scene, so you can look out and imagine all of the Game of Thrones that you saw during that time. Ballintoy Harbour isn't far from Kerikeri Bridge, so if you are going to that, there was some scenes filmed about all of the islands and the cliffs of Kerikeri Bridge as well. It's a really cool place to visit. They don't use the bridge in the Game of Thrones, but they use all of the scenery, and then just down the way is Ballintoy Harbour. I can't say it. Ballintoy Harbour. Blah, blah, blah.
One of the most visited Game of Thrones sites is definitely the Dark Hedges. Now this doubled as King's Road. There's actually a scene in the Game of Thrones where Arya is leaving and she's on a wagon and she's going through these beautiful hedges. It's a beautiful scene, definitely, even if you're not a fan of Game of Thrones.
It's always been a big attraction in Northern Ireland, but now it's even bigger. And we recommend going early in the morning. We had it all to ourselves before the tour buses came, and we were taking photos and running around the dark hedges and pretending we were in the Game of Thrones. I can't help it. I love it. Another place to visit on your Northern Ireland Game of Thrones road trip is the Mussenden Temple. Now this is where the Red Woman, Melisandre, remember when she burnt all of those statues? It was the statues of the 7 on the beach. That was to get Stannis to change over to her religion. Well, that was a really memorable scene, and it was shot right here, and it's another great place that you just have to visit anyway, regardless.
And it's definitely worth it because you can walk out to this temple and look down the cliffs, and the views down there, the beach down below, are just absolutely stunning. And another cool place to visit is Murlough Bay. And this was the backdrop of when Theon and his sister were actually riding to their father's castle. So in that scene, it's pretty identifiable that this is Murlough Bay. So definitely stop there.
And if you look across the water, you'll see Scotland. So it's worth going to anyway. A place that not too many people recommend in Northern Ireland is Marble Arches Cave. Now this is a really cool cave system. But the scene that you'll remember most is when Beric Dondarrion first came back to life. Remember when the Hound and him had that sword fight, and then the Hound killed him, of course. And then Beric Dondarrion, he just rose up, and we found out that the Red Witch gave him the gift of second life. And I remember going, that's how Jon Snow is going to come back to life. She's going to come and she's going to save him. And guess what? She did!
I couldn't believe it.
That was such a pivotal scene in the Game of Thrones, and it's a really cool place to visit.
Iceland is another place where they filmed a ton of stuff for the Game of Thrones. A lot of stuff around the wall and all that kind of stuff was filmed in Iceland. And the beauty is that it's easy. Most of them are located within, just short walking distances off of the ring road. So it's very easy to visit a lot of sites in one trip.
So if you want to visit all of the Jon Snow locations, north of the wall locations, the Wildling locations, this is the place to be, and these are the top ones that you shouldn't miss.
Not far from Reykjavik is Þingvellir Gorge. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not very good. My Icelandic is not that good.
Quite terrible.
It is. Well, I'm sure somebody will tell me that for sure. So this is like White Walker Central. You'll see where a lot of scenes with any of the White Walkers were filmed all in that area. And it's a very cool place to visit as well.
And if you want to go and see the cave where Jon Snow finally lost his virginity once and for all, well, this is the place. If you go to the Gorge, you'll be able to go inside that cave.
Just a word of note, it is pretty popular, so,
Don't
try and react it while you're there.
A really amazing landscape in Iceland are the lava fields. When we were driving through this, I was just blown away. And then to find out that the Game of Thrones was filmed here, I can understand why. This is where in the Game of Thrones where the Wildlings had their camp set up. So when you see them trudging through those mounds of rock and dirt, this is the lava fields of Iceland.
It's also where, so you know that scene where they're all with the Wildlings and they got attacked by that one White Walker? That was all filmed right there on the lava fields.
I was super excited to see Arrowhead Mountain. Now this was such a huge scene. This is where Jon Snow and the Hound and all the gang faced the Night King.
Yeah.
It was the huge battle. Remember when they were surrounded by all of the White Walkers and they were breaking the ice and they were stuck there, and Arrowhead Mountain is jutting out of the mountain. It's a really cool place to see and one of the most photographed places in all of Iceland.
When you're there, you actually feel like you are in the Game of Thrones. So definitely visit this place if you're a fan.
I think on that note, it's a good thing about Iceland is the whole time you can identify everything.
True.
If you're looking at glaciers, the snow, the lava fields, the rocks, it really does feel like you're in the Game of Thrones.
You feel like you're north of the wall when you're in Iceland.
One of the most popular places on the ring road to visit is Jokulsarlon Glacier Lagoon. There haven't been, as far as I know, any scenes shot there, but I do know that the place that we stayed on the ring road is where the cast and crew of the Game of Thrones made their base. So they stayed there for months, and they have a lot of stories to tell. They told us that, weather's bad a lot of times in Iceland, days are short a lot of times in Iceland, so they just be hanging out at the hotel waiting for, some good weather to come in.
Have to check out the Black Beach in Vik in Iceland. Not only because there were a lot of beach scenes filmed there from the Game of Thrones, but because it's so unique. This volcanic beach with this black sand, it's pretty cool to walk on, and the formations out in the water are just unbelievable.
When you go to Vik, you're going to go, oh yeah, I remember that scene. There's just a lot of really notable rock formations that you're going to notice. If you're traveling to Spain and you're a Game of Thrones fan, there are a lot of places all around the country that they are visiting, all the way from Girona to Seville and everywhere in between. Girona in Spain is a medieval city, and it is definitely a great place to visit in the Game of Thrones.
Walking the wall of Girona is something you have to do when you come here. It's only about a half an hour and gives you an amazing view of the city.
The Girona bell tower was used as the Great Sept of Baelor.
Girona has also been doubling as the free city of Bravos and King's Landing. So those steps are pretty famous. You'll see it throughout that season.
Girona is perfect for Game of Thrones lovers because when you walk through those medieval alleyways, you can really picture the back streets. I envision fruit sellers and the peasants just complaining about those awful Lannisters.
Basque Country is another region in Spain that's featured prominently in season 7. It's actually Dragonstone. You know, when you see Jon Snow walking down from the castle down to the beach, that's all done in just outside of Bilbao in Spain.
What's really cool about this is there's actually a long zigzagging step leading out to an island. I thought that was all CGI, but it is real and you can visit it in real life. And if you're heading up to Bilbao or Pamplona or San Sebastian, make a detour to go out to this island and see it.
And there's a lot of other places in Spain that were featured in scenes of Game of Thrones, like Guadalajara, Cordoba, Barcelona. So they really, really love this part of the world. And I can't wait to see all the other places that they film in season 8. Croatia is another country that's used a ton in all seasons of Game of Thrones. It's probably most famously known as King's Landing. When they do those big wide shots of the castle, you know, that is Dubrovnik.
Dubrovnik is a great place to stay, obviously, once again, to explore. It's a medieval village, so naturally it makes sense for the Game of Thrones. And a lot of Daenerys' scenes were taking place there as well.
Dubrovnik is also where Cersei did her walk of shame, the very famous one where she stripped down naked and pranced through the streets of King's Landing.
Pranced through. She pranced through.
Maybe that was not the term she would have used when she was pelted with rotten vegetables and spit upon, but that's where this scene was filmed.
So if you want to reenact that one, just start looking for the narrow streets of Dubrovnik, walking from the castle, and start just throwing fruit and vegetables at the one you love.
Try not to get arrested. Probably most famously is those walls of Dubrovnik were used in the Battle of Blackwater. So all those scenes you see from the water looking towards the castle, that was all done in Dubrovnik.
Oh my God, that was such a memorable scene. I think it was the most epic battles ever on television at the time. And the Game of Thrones has topped it again and again. I can't wait till the battle. What did they say the last season, the final season's battle took 40 days to shoot?
43 nights, I believe.
Whoa, that's gonna be epic.
And down in Split, Croatia is where a lot of the scenes with the Unsullied and Daenerys took place.
Yeah, this was where she freed the Unsullied and where she was plotting her revenge. And a lot of the dragons growing up and dragons flying overhead, all of those scenes were shot in Split. Another excellent place to visit in Croatia and another great place to add to your Game of Thrones world tour. When we visited Meteora in Greece, we thought it was really cool to find out that the Game of Thrones actually was modeled after the monasteries that are in the sky there. Now, because it is a World Heritage Site and it's a protective area of the world, they couldn't shoot there, but the team went down and took a lot of photos and videos of the place, and then they built the castle in the clouds. Remember that really memorable scene where the Lady of the Vale was pushed through the moon door by Lord Baelish? And then remember when Tyrion thought he was going to get pushed through the moon door, but then he was championed?
Yes.
And then that was when we were introduced to Bronn. So much happened in this facade that was of Meteora. So you got to go see them and picture. It totally would make the perfect castle in the clouds. Okay, we are going to go across the pond now to our hometown of Canada because they have filmed a lot of scenes of the Game of Thrones in Alberta. They've used Banff and Calgary Studios. One very fun fact is that the direwolves that they use are Canadian. Woo! Now, you won't be able to meet the actual direwolves, but we know a great place where you can have a wolf experience in Canmore, Alberta, just about 40 minutes outside of Calgary. And that's called the Yamnuska Wolf Sanctuary. So put on your fake fur cape and head on out and meet these wonderful wolf dogs of the Yamnuska Wolf Sanctuary. All your proceeds help find the wolves new homes, and you'll be surrounded by the mountains that are doubling a lot now as the north.
Now our tour continues and we head to Morocco. Now Morocco was used a lot for the scenes with the Unsullied and with Daenerys. So especially, you know, that big scene where she asked them to fight for him? Well, that was filmed in Morocco.
Yeah, this is where she asked them to, they have a choice. She freed them and said, you can fight for me or go free. And naturally, because she's just so beautiful and enthralling, they all chose Daenerys Targaryen.
Actually, the port city of Essaouira was used in season 3 and it doubled as Astapor. Morocco was used for filming seasons 1 through 3 for most of Khaleesi's storyline. But from season 4, they moved on to Croatia. It's still great to visit all these places from seasons 1 to 3, especially if you're a diehard Game of Thrones fans like we are. Now, we can't leave out Malta, because Malta is another place where they filmed, but mostly it was just during season 1.
In season 1, Malta was used mostly for Daenerys' storyline. They're always in the nice warm weather with the beautiful medieval walls. And it was used for King's Landing as well. And the walled city of Medina was definitely used for King's Landing. It just is the perfect setting once again. I don't know why they left Malta to go to Croatia. It must have been cheaper for the budget.
Also in Malta was the Azure window where they filmed Drago and Daenerys' wedding. Now, unfortunately, that fell down and crumbled into the sea, so you can't see it anymore.
They're going to have to bring in the Game of Thrones crew to rebuild that arch because it's just absolutely stunning. And believe it or not, this international Game of Thrones tour can even take you to Los Angeles. Yes, I'm shocked that they went to the LA studios. The offspring of Bart the Bear was used. Bart the Bear is famous for the movie The Bear that was shot in the 80s. Remember when Brienne had to fight the bear to save her and Jamie so that they could get out? And then we saw them, in Winterfell next. Oh my gosh, they were in LA one minute and then they were in Winterfell the next in Ireland. So the Game of Thrones goes all over the world. What a fun experience for the cast and crew. Oh, the Game of Thrones. You've been on for so long and made us wait for so long in between each episode. We've watched all of these guys grow from young kids that couldn't even grow beard hair to Lord and Commander.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see these guys and girls grow up and have a career and move on to other things. I'm really interested to see how everybody moves on after the Game of Thrones.
But I am more excited for Game of Thrones Season 8 because I want to see how it all ends. Who's going to die?
And while we wait for the ending with bated breath, I hope you enjoyed this video, taking you all around the world to cool Game of Thrones filming locations. Make sure to try to hit as many as you can, or even if you're just in one country, go check it out. Delve into your nerdery, if that's even a word, of Game of Thrones and get right into it. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click that little bell because we do travel videos every single week.